Hey guys, this is Whitney and welcome back to another episode of Spastic Chatter. If you didn't know, Spastic Chatter is a platform meant to feature those in the cerebral palsy community, and I get together weekly with individuals with CP like myself to have an uncensored chat, if you will, about what it's like living with this type of disability. And for this week, I have Alicia, and she is doing some awesome things for parents with disabilities. She runs the Adaptive Parent Project, which has a lot of from what I've seen, it has a lot of videos on like how to do certain things as a parent with a disability. And I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and then we're gonna get on to the conversation. So take it away, Alicia.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alicia, and I am the creator of Adaptive Parent Project. I am 31 years old, and I have cerebral palsy, spastic diplegia, and I started Adaptive Parent Project because when I was pregnant with my son, Nolan, and I was searching for resources for people with disabilities that were having children, there was absolutely nothing. And during his first year of life, I kept going through all these like panic modes of like, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do that? And how am I going to figure this out? And by the time I would figure it out, then he'd be on to the next stage and I'd have to be figuring out something else. And so when he was about a year old, I decided to launch Adaptive Parent Project. I initially wanted to do it sooner, but being a new first-time mom, there just wasn't enough time. And so I decided to start my YouTube channel and my Instagram to help do tutorials for how to care for your child if you use a wheelchair, if you have a disability.
That's awesome. Okay, Alicia, I want to take it back to the very beginning. You talked about what adaptive parenting project is. I want to take it back to the very beginning. Like, can you talk about how your pregnancy was, and like, was it like?
So I was one of those very lucky people that I actually absolutely loved being pregnant, and I actually felt better being pregnant than I do when I'm not pregnant. I mean, I did have some like rib pain and things like that from sitting and growing a baby, but I was one of those people that if I could like permanently be like 15 weeks pregnant before the rib pain kicks in, I would love to do it. Like I didn't have any morning sickness, so I was really lucky. I had a really good medical team that was really confident in caring for me. So that was one of the biggest things, and that's something that I'm really strongly advocating for with Adaptive Parent Project. Is I want to have a platform where people can click on the state that they're in, and it will give them the providers that they can access that are accustomed to helping people with disabilities. Because you go to a lot of OBGYNs or doctors and they're like, what, you have CP? I don't know what to do with you. Like, I'm scared. So you have to find somebody that's specifically most like a maternal fetal medicine doctor that deals with high risk pregnancies, because even if your pregnancy is quote unquote typical, because you have a disability, they do consider it high risk. So I would say my biggest advice was, if you can plan everything, or even if your pregnancy isn't planned, as soon as you find out, find someone that's a maternal fetal medicine doctor that can care for you, so that the team is confident in everything that they're doing. For me, I was really lucky that I made it to 36 weeks. My plan was to have a planned C-section at 39 weeks, but my blood pressure started going up and I was developing preeclampsia. So basically for me, I went to the hospital to be checked, and they're like, you're not going to go home before you meet this baby. And then they're like, actually, you're going to meet this baby today. So I went into the hospital at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and by 7:04, we had a baby. So it was a very fast process, but they were, being extra cautious because my blood pressure was going up. Something that I didn't know that I wish I would have known in the beginning of my pregnancy is, because I have a baclofen pump, I could not find a anesthesiologist that was comfortable placing a spinal block or an epidural. So I did have to go under general anesthesia, and I didn't find that out until 34 weeks. So of course I was devastated, because who wants to miss the birth of their child? But, you know, it turned out okay. We were all safe, and, you know, I had to be on medication for the first 24 hours because of my blood pressure, which made me forget a lot of things, and everything was kind of a blur. But, you know, after that, I was really fortunate to have a really good pregnancy, and I would definitely do it all over again.
Oh, girl, you've given me so many good talking points, but one that I want to bring up, like, since you just mentioned it, I've had a backup pump for like 12, 13 years, and they've always I was always under the impression that you can't get pregnant with a pump, and that's obviously not the case for you. Like, you got pregnant with a pump. Like,
I don't know who told you that or why, but that's definitely not the case.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Like, so, like, was there anything like special with the pump? Because I know a lot of my viewers have the backup pump, or are on backup, and I've started a whole series related to the backup pump. So, is there anything that, like, you have to, like, watch out for when you're pregnant with the pump? Like,
the only thing that we really watched out for, and this is what they plan for it actually when they implant your pump, is they make sure that you have a ton of extra catheter in the front in case your belly grows. So that was the only thing we really had to watch. Toward the end of my pregnancy, we tried to plan my baclofen refill a little bit early, so that if I did have Nolan early, I wouldn't be like in the hospital and close to running out of medication. And actually, the day before I was supposed to get it refilled is when he was born, but we had enough leeway where it was okay, and I was going to have enough medication until I could make it into the doctor in like 2 weeks. So the only thing was we planned my refill early. But other than that, honestly, it was really typical. I didn't find any like issues with it, and I would love to come back on another episode of Spastic Chatter, because I am one of those people that have had a ton of pump issues in my past, because I've also had a pump since 2009, but I am still a really strong advocate for the pump, but I just like to make people aware of, you know, the issues that can happen and how to advocate for yourself. Because when my pump was malfunctioning at one point, I was basically told, you know, that it was in my head, or I had a lot of other problems.
Same here. Like, this is a like, I need to have you back on for that, just for specifically the pump. So that is a whole different conversation that we're going to have. We're gonna schedule it, because that is a much needed conversation. But the last question I have related to the pump in pregnancy was no one affected by the baclofen at all, or was it just, like,
not that we could tell? I mean, they monitored him, of course, but he didn't seem to have any issues that we could find. The nice thing about having a baclofen pump is it's going through your cerebral spinal fluid and not your blood. So, you know, we monitored him to make sure he was okay, but there was nothing really major that we noticed.
Yeah, because I know I have a friend that her doctor made her. Well, she was on oral baclofen, and her doctor wanted her to stop oral baclofen while she was trying to get pregnant. So I know that's the difference between the medicine and the pump, I believe. But yeah, that was like I said, that's all. I'm gonna have you on again to talk specifically about the pump. But I have like I said, you brought up so many good points to talk about. Are you ambulatory? Like, can you stand and
So
walk?
I did walk in a walker up until I was 19, but then my energy expenditure, I went to the University of California, San Diego. And for anybody that knows the UC system, UC campuses are huge. So I had to decide between, am I going to use my energy to walk around campus and fall asleep when I get to class, or am I going to use my energy to actually learn in class? So I actually stopped walking shortly after I got my pump, just because my mobility changed so much. I do have a gait trainer now that I just got, but I just started receiving it, or just started using it rather. So that's something new, but it's more for like recreational walking and not what they consider functional walking.
Yeah. No,
So
I was just wondering. I was just wondering how transferring was and like walking was when you're.
so I'm fortunate enough that I have a manual chair that allows me to stand up. So that was really helpful. You know, and I was just extra cautious during my pregnancy with my transfers. And if I felt like I wanted somebody to spot me extra, I definitely would, because, you know, you definitely don't want to end up on the floor when you're pregnant if you can help it, or at all for that matter, but definitely when you're pregnant. So I feel like my transfers did change a little bit as I got bigger. But I was really fortunate that I only gained like 23 pounds my whole pregnancy.
Okay.
And I was working out at an adaptive gym for years prior to having Nolan. So my body was as prepped as I could be, as far as physically for carrying a child. And so it did change a little bit, but you know, you just have to remember, if there is issues, it's temporary. And that, you know, everything you're going through is so worth it in the end.
So let's talk about support systems, because I know a lot of disabled parents, like they get like the trolls of the internet saying that like you can't have a child because you can't take care of yourself. Who's gonna take care of your child? So I wanted to talk about like support systems. Like, do you have a support system in place, and do you want to?
I am very lucky to have a support system in place. I have, you know, Nolan's dad, and I have my mom and Nolan's dad's mom. And so, you know, we kind of have a whole system of help. And like right now, my grandma is here, his great grandma. She's helping so that I can actually hopefully do this podcast interview with, you know, little interruption. But support systems are very important, and you need somebody that is going to give you the space and the time to figure things out, because when things come up, you may not have the answer on day one, you may not have the answer on day two, you may not have the answer on day 732. So for me, like, if anybody has seen my video that has gotten some attention about changing a toddler on your lap, it took me roughly 2 years to figure that out, because I started changing him on a changing table, and then when he started rolling over, I started changing him in his crib, and then when he started trying to climb out of the crib while I was changing him, I had to come up with another way. So I started changing him on my lap. But you have to have a support system that's going to give you the time and the space to figure things out, and understand that you are going to do things, you know, differently than the way a typical person would do something. So it's really important to have a support system, but people have to realize children are extremely adaptable. So they get very used to the way that you're doing things, and they will do their best to help you along the way. So Nolan now knows when I need to change his diaper, he climbs up to my wheelchair and climbs in my lap. When he helps me feed my service dog, he climbs in my lap. So my lap is like a central hub for all things. And so, yes, it's very important to have a support system, but children adapt as they get older. And I'm literally so excited to see how Nolan is going to be growing up, because for him, disability is all he knows, especially during this pandemic. And we've been, you know, home and kind of in lockdown because, you know, I and his dad are vaccinated, but You know, he is not, obviously, because he's 2 years old. And so, you know, we've had a lot of time to, you know, figure things out and adapt things. But, you know, you just kind of have to be ready for things to be constantly changing and development to be changing, and just have a support system that's hopefully going to, you know, for lack of a better term, support you and be there for you, but also let you do as much as you can on your own, or you want to, you know, so that you're able to parent in the way that you can. But you also have to know that it's okay to ask for help, even with things that you can do, because, you know, most people, or if not all people with cerebral palsy, have a higher energy expenditure. So, you know, yes, I can do certain things, but if it's going to tire me out to where I can't do anything else, do I really want to do that myself? Or do I want to save my energy to be able to be with my kid and delegate those other tasks to somebody else so I don't tire myself out, if that makes sense?
Exactly. No, it makes total sense. So you've talked a lot about adapting and things. I watched your YouTube videos, and you come up with some pretty cool like adaptations. Like I watched one video where you like took a harness off of correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one of those harnesses you put, it's like on a doorway. And like help
no, it's actually a harness to help kids learn to walk, so parents can support them. But it does look like one that you can put in a doorway, so I could see why you would think that. Yeah. But yeah, I just adapted a walking harness, and his great grandma was able to remove the straps from the top of it and sew them onto the back, so that I could almost pick it up like, you know, a bag. So that, because when he was mobile and crawling but not yet walking, it was really hard for me to figure out a way to be able to pick him up. And so I was like, okay, now I got to scramble and figure something out. So I'm calling family and calling my support system, like, can somebody sew something? Can somebody help me figure it out? And, you know, I was fortunate that I have enough family still, and grandparents and great grandparents that were able to help me figure it out. But yeah, I think coming up with all these unique adaptations for me is so fun, because I'm hoping that I can show other people with disabilities that they can do it and they can figure it out, and they don't have to be afraid of the stigma that, oh, because you're disabled, you can't be a parent. It's not true.
And like I know we keep going back to this, like to the stigma, but it's so apparent in today's society now, like, because I don't know if it's like in the disability community, like people I follow, like Alyssa Higgins just had her baby, and like she's getting so much like troll comments about who's gonna take care of it. Like that's like basically all you see on in her comment section, and it's kind of irritating. Like really, we're just typical people, like who like we're gonna figure it out. Like whose business is it? Like it's not your business how somebody.
Right, you wouldn't go up to an able-bodied person and be like, oh, I don't think you should be a parent because XYZ. Yeah. Like, there are so many children that are brought into this world by quote-unquote unfit parents, but because they're able-bodied, it's not seen as an issue. But a disabled parent automatically, no matter if they're of, you know, sound mind and healthy and, you know, educated and whatever, oh, just because you're disabled doesn't mean you should be a parent. And it's like, my ability to walk independently does not define my ability to care for my child.
Exactly. Like you find ways to do everything you can to take care of your child, and it's not any different than any other situation in life.
Right. Like, and I think because we have CP and because we have disabilities, we're used to adapting. So for us, that's, you know, typical to have to figure out a different way. I mean, you know, having a child is no different than, you know, figuring out how to get dressed or how to, do your like activities of daily living or something else. You figure it out. Like, and if you want something bad enough, you're going to figure out how to do it no matter what your disability level is. And I think that's what the great thing about Adaptive Parent Project and what I'm starting is it's not, I mean, while I welcome, people with CP, it's for every type of disability.
Yeah.
And I hope that a lot of people contribute videos to be like, oh, so-and-so did it this way and I wasn't able to do it that way, but so-and-so contributed this video to Adaptive Parent Project and I was able to do it the way they did it. So I want it to become this resource and wealth of knowledge for people to realize that there are different ways to do different things. And I want people to have a supportive community where they have somewhere to go. I want the 6-year-old child that was me when I was little, that wanted so badly to be a parent when I was adult, to know that there's somewhere that's going to help them and support them. Mm-hmm. And there's somewhere to go and there's going to be someone to help them figure it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I was looking at your channel before you before this interview, and like you said, there's so many you're representing so many diverse disabilities. Like you have Danny Izzy on there who's a quadriplegic. Like,
right.
You're and like you're showing different. And she has like on the video that I watched, like it's a newborn, so like you're representing like different stages
exactly
of parenthood. Do you want to talk about how can people reach out when they want to be like involved in your adaptive parent?
I would absolutely love that. So you can reach out to me on Instagram or comment on YouTube or send an email to adaptiveparentproject@gmail.com. I am totally inclusive of trying to include as many people as possible. And I think that's been something that's hard for me, is I'm trying to reach out to all these parents, but I think some people are a little bit hesitant because of stigma. And I've talked to some parents that are like, oh, I think it's such a great idea, what you're doing. But, I've faced a lot of, backlash about a certain way that I adapt something. And so I've just kind of decided to be quiet about it. So I want to help people be more comfortable with the adaptations that they use and not feel shame and guilt for having to do something that people might think is too outside the standard norm.
Yeah. No, I totally like feel what you just said, because like it seems like in today's society with everything going on, I would be hesitant to. If I was a parent, I too would be hesitant to post how I take care of my child because of the current, because of the backlash that I thought would happen. So I completely understand where people are coming from.
Right.
Tessa, what platforms do you use? Do you just post it on YouTube?
I primarily use YouTube and Instagram right now. I've been really fortunate that people have been able to find me through a lot of hashtags, so that's really helping. I do have a couple videos on TikTok, but I am by no means a TikTok expert. I know a couple people have asked me to go on Facebook as well, but honestly, since I'm managing everything on my own, I'm finding it very difficult to manage more than 2 platforms at once. For me, it's just really overwhelming. And I eventually want to start a podcast myself. So I was like, well, I feel like more people nowadays use Instagram than Facebook, and Instagram is owned by Facebook. So for now, I'm just going to, stick to Instagram and YouTube, and hopefully branch out as Adaptive Parent Project gets bigger. But I don't want to overwhelm myself so much that I feel like I can't manage everything, because chasing after a 2-year-old is enough in itself. And so, I'm just trying to take one step at a time.
Exactly. And I'm going to leave all all your information, your YouTube links, and your all your social media in the description so people can check you out. And at the end of every episode, I always ask if my guests have any advice for those watching. So, do you have any advice for parents with disabilities or anybody that wants to become a parent? I know this.
My biggest advice would be that believe in yourself and know you can do it no matter what people tell you. You will be able to figure it out, and just know that if being a parent is something that you truly want, and know that you feel like that's kind of part of your destiny in life, that you can do it. And Adaptive Parent Project is here to grow with you and support you and finally be that place for people that want to become parents or people that are parents with disabilities. So Adaptive Parent Project aims to be the place where finally people can find the support that they've been looking for so long and have never had. And I'm always here if people want to reach out, and I support you, and so do all the other parents with disabilities. And let's just be one big happy community and show society that we can do it no matter what our abilities are.
That's awesome. And I'm excited to see where Adaptive Parenting Project goes in the future. And thank you, Alicia, for being on an episode of Spastic Chatter. If you're watching this and you want to be on an episode, comment wherever you see this video, and I'd be more than willing to share your story. And check back next week for another episode of Spastic Chatter. Thanks.